Most people think sleep is just rest, something you do when you're tired, something that comes after training. But if you're training hard, especially with high intensity training, sleep isn't a luxury. It's the prime time your body repairs, rebuilds, and resets. You don't grow muscle in the gym. You grow it when you sleep. And fat loss doesn't happen because you train more. It happens when sleep removes the brakes that stop your body from burning fat properly. In this episode, I'm going to explain why sleep is one of the most overlooked parts of physical transformation, how your circadian rhythm works, including why you feel that urge to slow down in the middle of the day. And I'll use a simple analogy most people never considered: aeroplanes. Inside the ONE35 Body System, sleep is one of the 4 fundamental pillars. And instead of forcing perfection, I improve sleep gradually, phase by phase, using small tweaks that compound into massive long-term results. This isn't just about muscle or fat loss. It's about restoring alignment between mind, body, and soul. And it starts with sleep. Comment 135 if you want early access to what I'm building next. So let's take a look at what I call prime time. Now, I'm not talking about prime time fight night. I'm not talking about the latest premiere release in the cinema. I'm talking about prime time sleep time. Now, let's go back, let's say 200 years, maybe even beyond that, when we were living in much more natural environments. You weren't watching this video on YouTube. We didn't have all these artificial lights that kept us awake all day, hours of the night. And we didn't have jobs where people would be working shift jobs, working through the night, sleeping through the day. We were living in a much more natural environment. Something like the picture you see on your screen. A very natural way of living that humans have been living for thousands and thousands of years before the Industrial Revolution, which really turned nature on its head. Now, the way we as humans have been designed to sleep, we have been tuned to external factors. There's something which is known as the circadian rhythm. Now, the circadian rhythm, as you can see on the screen right now, is a 24-hour cycle which is tuned to the sun. So we are designed to sleep during the night hours, and we are designed to slowly wake up during when the sun gets up, have our peak hours normally after sunrise, go through different levels through the day, and as the sun is starting to set, so is our internal body clock. You see, this circadian rhythm is in every cell in our body. Every cell in our body is tuned to what they call a master clock. Now, that master clock is set not by your alarm going off in the morning. The master clock is actually set by the sun rising. Behind our eyes, behind our retina, there's a portion of the brain, which is, as you can see on the screen right here, is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, that suprachiasmatic nucleus is timed to the light hitting our retina and setting our biological clock. That is what sets in motion our circadian rhythm. That sets in motion our whole day. Now, what I want to show you on the next screen is an example of my clock. So the only things that I track, The only things, I'm not into hacking and tracking everything. I track my sleep and I also track how much I walk during the day. That's the only things I'm interested in. Now, this is a snapshot of one of the nights which I slept a few months back. And it shows that I slept around 7.5 hours. Now, why is that 7.5 hours important? It's important because our body sleeps in cycles, not hours. So remember that. Our body sleeps in cycles, not hours. And each cycle is on average 90 minutes long. Now that fluctuates from human to human, but on average is 90 minutes long. So if you look at this log of my sleep on that particular night back in April 2025, you will see that there's core sleep, there's deep sleep, and there's REM sleep. Core sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Core sleep is where our body spends most of its time. It starts off in core sleep. That's where your sleep is the lightest. It then goes into deep sleep, which is where different elements of sleep happen. And then it goes into REM sleep, which is the deepest part of your sleep. And then your body goes back to core sleep. So that cycle of core to deep to REM takes around 90 minutes. So each cycle is about 90 minutes. 90 times 5 is 7.5 hours. So as you can see, my core, deep, REM, each cycle is around 90 minutes. I go back to core again, which is when sleep is lightest, and then I go through another cycle. If you look through this, you will see that the REM peaks, there's 4 of them, but there's another one which is just before the last one, which is where the red markers are when I woke up. That's when another core sleep or REM peak happened. So if you count them all, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you will see that I slept in 5 cycles, taking me up to 7.5 hours, which times into the 90 minute per cycle. So every day we should be aiming for 5 cycles a day. Now let me show you this next slide. This next slide is taken from the book by Nick Littlehales entitled Sleep. Nick Littlehales is, I think, the first sleep coach, is someone that I spoke to about this very program. I went and met Nick, and in his book, he has this amazing graph. In this amazing graph, you will see sleep cycle through a 48-hour period. Now, you will see the need to sleep, which is when your body gets more and more tired. And that peaks, as you can see, around 10 to 11 o'clock. And then you have the urge to sleep. And what you will see is that your body has an urge to sleep when your body needs to sleep the most, which is around in the evening, around 10 to 11 o'clock. But then it has another peak, not as high as the nighttime peak, but a midday peak. You can look at it in the first half. There's you can say a half peak and then a half peak near the end, which is a midday window. So we have 2 urges to sleep, one in the evening and one midday. This is why after your lunch, you do get that sleep urge. It's not you. It's not because you had a particularly big lunch, which may also be a cause for that, but it's biological. We have a biological need to also sleep during midday. So if you don't get your 5 cycles during the night, you could always top that up with a cycle during midday, which doesn't have to be as long as your 90-minute cycle during the night. So try that. If you do feel that you're feeling tired during your lunch break, try and find a quiet place to go and get another cycle of sleep. Now, the next question I want to tackle is, why is sleep so important? Why isn't it something we do when we're tired, when we're exhausted, and we just want to get a few winks in? In the ONE35 Body System, I always say sleep is sacred and we should keep it sacred, and this is why. I'm guessing most of you, if not all of you, have traveled on a jumbo jet. This is a British Airways jumbo jet. I think it's a 777 jumbo jet. Why am I showing this aeroplane? And why did I mention that I'm going to use this analogy at the beginning of the video? The reason for that is, after each flight, an aeroplane goes into the hangar and goes under maintenance of approximately 2 to 6 hours after each and every flight. After each and every flight, it has a maintenance schedule of 2 to 6 hours, checking all the key things to enable that aeroplane to fly again. Now have a look at this British Airways flight. Does anyone remember what happened here? It happened in 2008. Let me tell you. This is British Airways flight 38. In 2008, it crashed just off the runway while attempting to land at Heathrow Airport in London. The plane lost engine power during that final approach. Does anyone know the causes of that? The causes of that, as mentioned here, the investigation revealed that the incident was caused by the freezing of the aircraft's fuel system. This occurred due to poor maintenance and incorrect fuel quality control practices. Poor maintenance and incorrect fuel quality control practices. Is this ringing a bell? I go on. The aircraft's fuel was not properly treated to avoid the risk of freezing at high altitudes, and maintenance procedures failed to detect this before the flight. Maintenance procedures failed to detect this before the flight. Does that sound like anything familiar? Remember, the aeroplane goes into maintenance for 2 to 6 hours after every flight to make sure it can fly again. Now, the question to you is, what is your maintenance procedures like? What is your hangar like? Are you allowing your body to go through the correct maintenance procedures after each and every flight? If you're not, are you surprised why you feel exhausted? Are you surprised why you're not having the energy that you should be having? Are you surprised why you constantly need caffeine to keep you awake? Is it because your body is not going into its correct maintenance procedures, which is sleep? So as I mentioned in the ONE35 Body Blueprint, we treat sleep as sacred. It's not an afterthought. It's not something you do when you're knackered, when you finished doom scrolling, when you finished binging on that latest Netflix bonanza. It's something you prepare for from the moment you wake up. Sleep is prime time. It's when you grow your muscles, as mentioned at the beginning. You don't build your muscles when you're training, you build them when you're sleeping. And if you have an amazing sleep, you remove the brakes and the impediments from your body to go through a proper fat burning procedure. If you want to understand the full ONE35 body system, subscribe. Each episode breaks down one pillar at a time. Now let's look at the ONE35 body blueprint and how we deal with sleep. So in the ONE35 body blueprint, we have sleep which is phased through the process. I don't force upon you to sleep perfectly from day one. We slowly and gradually tweak things in your sleep to improve your sleep week by week, phase by phase. Now let's have a look at what we do with the sleep phases. For example, when we start off with the muscle making multiplier, which is the first phase in the ONE35 body system, the first phase of this sleep improvement is called the recharge and rise fundamentals. In that, we look at your sleep kit and environment. Now, what do I mean by that? We look at where you're sleeping, the bed upon which you're sleeping, the pillow in which you're sleeping, the duvet you're using, the room in which you sleep. Sleep isn't just one of the things you do in your bedroom. It's the most important thing you do in your bedroom. So your sleep environment, your bedroom, your bed should be geared towards optimizing sleep. So we have a look at that and give you tips to how to improve that. After your training day, we recommend not to do any strenuous physical activities for 48 hours after training. Why is that? It's because you've just overloaded and stressed your body, your central nervous system, and your muscles. Your body needs at least 48 hours from any other physical strenuous activities. So that's what we recommend. Then, no calories 90 minutes before bed. So what we're trying to do is to allow sleep to be focused on rejuvenation, rest, and recovery. If you're eating right up to the time you're sleeping, your body is spending a lot of its energy on digestion, not on regeneration. Does that make sense? So in order to wind that back and allow the body to focus on regeneration, we start to introduce no calories 90 minutes before bed. And then we want you to start winding down before sleep, not on full helter just before sleep and you only go to sleep because you're absolutely shattered. We get you to start winding down, reducing your activities mentally and physically before sleep so that sleep becomes a natural thing you do, not something you do because you're absolutely shattered. Now let's look at the next phase, which is the fat burning blueprint. In that, we're aiming to get 30 to 35 cycles a week. As I said, your body sleeps in cycles, not hours. Each cycle or each night, you're aiming to try and get 5 cycles a night, which equals to 35 cycles throughout that week. Because we don't live in a perfect world. Life isn't linear. This isn't always possible, but the aim is to try and get 30 to 35 cycles a week by the second phase. And then we increase that window of not having any calories before bed from 90 minutes to 180 minutes. That's 3 hours before bed. It's done on in week by week increments, trying to allow your body to focus completely on regeneration and not on digestion. And then that we try and get you to sleep within a 90-minute window 5 times a week. So what do I mean by that? So if you, at the moment, when you speak to people, when I always speak to people, their sleep times are erratic. They're sleeping at different times every single day. What we try and do in this phase is try and get you to sleep within a 90-minute window. So that could be between 10 and 11:30 5 times a week, or 9:30 and 11 o'clock 5 times a week. So we're reducing the calories and we're trying to focus in the time at which you go to sleep. Going on to the next phase, we want to reduce that window even further from 90 minutes to 60 minutes 5 times a week. So for example, it could be you're trying to sleep 5 times a week between 9:30 and 10:30. That's your window to go to sleep, because sleep wake time or constant sleep wake time is one of the key markers of healthy living. If you can go to sleep at the same time every day, weekdays or weekends, you will see massive improvements in your health, let alone the improvements in your musculature, in your fat loss, and in your overall mental health. Then what we do is we want to have a 90-minute window after waking where you're not having any calories. Allow the body to slowly rise from sleep. Don't force digestion on it, which is quite energy intensive. Allow the body to slowly wake up. Then after 90 minutes after waking, you want to be having your first calories. Remember, this is all phased in. We don't force it upon you from day one. We're looking at this in a super strong strategy. So this is around 3 to 4 months after starting the program. And then going on to the Fit Forever formula, where we're looking at the Recharge and Rise Mastery. We're now really dialing in your sleep. We want you to be sleeping within a 30-minute window, 6 days a week. So you're thinking 6 days a week, that means it's crossing into the weekend. Yes, weekend or weekdays, ideally, you should be sleeping at the same time and waking at the same time every single day. Remember, the body doesn't wake up at 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock and go to sleep at 11 o'clock. It doesn't know what 9 o'clock or 7 o'clock or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock is. What it knows is sun up, sun down. So the body is tuned to the sun, not to your iPhone. And a wind up 90 minutes after waking. So what we want you to do is after you wake, don't go straight in to hectic activities. Slowly wind up after waking. After that 90-minute wake, then you will have your first calories. So as you can see, this is what I said. You prepare for sleep the moment you wake up. Remember that. We prepare for sleep the moment you wake up. And then what we ideally want to do is to time your wake and sleep to as close to sunset and sunrise as possible. Remember, this is how our body clocks have been designed. They're designed to be in tune with sunset to sunrise. Now, I'm not telling you to be crazy. In the winter months, for example, the sun goes up at around 8 o'clock and it sets at around 4 o'clock. I'm not telling you to go to sleep 6 o'clock in the evening. Try and have your sleep wake time and sleep bedtime to as close as sunrise and sunset as possible. So for example, me, I try and go to bed 10 o'clock every single day, and I aim to rise at around 6 o'clock every single day. And that's really amazingly helped my health, my musculature, my mind, body, and soul. Here's the real takeaway. Sleep doesn't magically burn fat. Sleep doesn't automatically build muscle. What sleep does is create the conditions where muscle can repair and regrow, where fat loss becomes possible, and where your nervous system resets. It's where the body repairs. It's where the mind recenters. And it's where the system returns to balance. That's why in the ONE35 Body System, sleep isn't treated as an afterthought or a lifestyle upgrade. It's treated as scheduled maintenance. You don't need perfect sleep. You don't need extreme routines. You need small, well-timed improvements applied consistently at the right phase of your journey. Train hard when it matters. recover properly when it counts, train less, live more.